What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Kangas Khan, and today I'm bringing you a review of a brand new early access city builder called Overthrown. You play as a king trying to build up his kingdom. It has like the usual city builder mechanics. You're gathering resources, building a town, growing and gathering food, and then you're processing and automating all of those things in order to take care of all your citizens. There's some combat as well with some pretty awesome movement mechanics. The game just came out on Steam today, December 5th, 2024. Whenever you're watching this, it'll be that day. And there's also a sale going on Steam for it. And the game is also available on the Xbox Game Pass. This video is not sponsored whatsoever by the developers, so everything I'm telling you, this whole review is going to be my honest opinion of the game. We're going to be going over some of the gameplay, some pros, some cons. But before we get into all of that, I do want to state that it is an early access game, and the developers do have a roadmap for it, and it looks like they're looking to expand on it a bit. So please do keep that in mind as we go through some of this stuff here. So the game is called Overthrown, which leads us into one of the unique and interesting mechanics of the gameplay. Throwing things. If you see it, it can be thrown. Trees, pick them up, chuck them. Your buildings, pick those up, chuck them. Other players that you're playing with, pick them up, chuck them across the map. There are some cool like interactions and mechanics with this. Like you could take, so the sawmills, you need to put trees in them in order to get them to make planks. So usually your citizens would go out, chop some trees, and they put it in. But you can go and just grab a tree by the roots and just chuck it into a sawmill, and it will like suck it up and do it. And then you could also like reverse this. So you could take the sawmill and just chuck it into a forest and have it like collect the trees that it touches as it goes. This is it's a small mechanic, but I did find myself enjoying it a lot. Another mechanic that I really liked was actually the movement, and it's weird to be talking about like movement and throwing things, but this city builder is like a third person perspective where you play as the king, or there is co-op. So if you're playing with other people, then you're not all kings, but you're all there, and it's not like your typical city builder. So things like movement is a little different for me. But the sprinting of the game almost feels like a 3D Sonic game, like the boost games, if you will. There's like a small sprint that you can do, but if you hold the shift button, you do like this crazy dash, and it even allows you to do things like walk on water, which super fun. And while I was using it, like it really did just make me think of Sonic the Hedgehog. And then the jumping is also kind of unique for a city builder, because most of the time you're not jumping in a city builder, but it actually reminded me of playing like Mario Sunshine in my GameCube days. These two things really just had me running around the map for the first few minutes of my playthrough. These things could also be used in conjunction with the combat, so you could do like a sprinting dash attack, or you could do like a jumping dive with the great sword and stuff like that. So that was a cool little mechanic. The bread and butter is obviously the city building games. Like any other city builder game, you start off small and you work your way up through the resource tree in order to unlock new things. You'll be doing things like crafting houses for your citizens, you'll be making farms to grow crops, and then you could do like buildings such as the pie shop and the pantry in order to take those things like the wheat and the vegetables to process them into better meals. And then the same thing goes for like the ore and the clay. You get the ore and then you process them into ingots and so on and so forth. And they also have some cool construction items. So you could like build paths, you could build walls, you could do like decorations, like lights and benches and bushes and stuff like that. So you can really make this city feel nice to be in. Like it's not a huge city like something like City Skylines, where you have 55,000 people and you've got multiple communities in this city. It's a kingdom. You're making a little castle, you're making a kingdom, so you can really put love and your own touch into all of these different things. The game also features co-op, which is a great addition to a city builder like this. The only city builder that I could think of that had co-op was, it was like a Sim City of some sort, and it was actually great. It was one of the reasons I continued playing it, was because you could have like your city and then somebody else could have their city and then you could like work together. But that was the only city builder game that I've ever seen have co-op. The way this game does it is you're all kind of like kings in a way. You have one king, but the other players just, they could do everything you do. So you're really just going out and working together. So now that we talked about some of the mechanics, it's time to get into the pros. And for me, we talked about it, but the movement truly is one of my biggest pros. It sounds super weird to top the list, but I really just loved rolling around at the speed of sound. Had places to go, had to follow my rainbow. You know what I'm saying? Finding out that I could drift while sprinting honestly had me grinning ear to ear. It was such a surprise to see in a city builder game. I can't really go on about the movement of the game. There's only so much I could talk about. You're jumping and you're sprinting and you're, hitting things. But it really is one of the biggest pros that I have for this game. Another thing that I really liked was how alive the kingdom felt. So, like I was saying before, City Skylines and Kingdom Reborn, city builders like that, SimCity, you're stuck in this like god view. So you're looking down at everybody. You see this bird's eye view of it all. But in Overthrown, you play as a character on the ground. Like you're boots to the ground in this castle, in this village. So it adds a new feel to a city builder. But then, like, you start seeing villagers cutting trees and, they're going home or they're running for shelter when they're attacked. And even with just 30 citizens, the kingdom really felt vibrant. And I could only imagine how alive it'll feel when there's, like, hundreds of villagers in, like, a long-term playthrough. I think it will really add a nice touch to the game. And as I was saying before, the co-op is also just a huge pro. There aren't any restrictions that I saw between players, so having the opportunity to just bring your friends along really does nothing but improve a game for me, especially as someone who is always in a Discord with the boys, and especially in a city builder. The inclusion of co-op really did just feel like a breath of fresh air. You could go out and clear a bandit camp together, or you could split responsibilities and have different people manage different aspects of the community. And another pro that I saw with this is, with early access games, a lot of them, they'll promise co-op and they'll say, yeah, co-op's coming, but it's going to be an update. And then you finally get the update. It's supposed to be 6 months, but then they have problems. So then 9 months and a year later, and you just had 4 people pick up this game and it's not co-op yet. So I'm really glad to see that it has co-op at the start of the early access. So those were a few of the pros, and I'm sure there's more, but those are things that really like stuck out to me. Unfortunately, we do have some cons, and one of the cons is a major issue, but I'll probably save that for last. And again, as I'm going through these cons, please remember that this is an early access, and most of these cons really just come with that territory. One of the cons is that there was just a huge lack of UI elements that would have helped with like the knowledge of the game. There were times when like citizens would get attacked somewhere on the map, and I just had no way of knowing like where or why. Like there wasn't like a little icon in my view or on the map or anything like that. And usually it was like just an animal or something that made its way into aggro range while somebody was like going off into the woods to cut trees or something like that. There were also like buildings that needed to be repaired that I couldn't find a way, like an easy way to look for. So I ended up having to just go like building to building looking for one that had a little bit of damage. And with this, there was also like a lack of information that would have been nice just to have as like small pop-up hints just to fill me in. One of the big examples that I could think of is when you have a military, when you start getting the army, you have to pay them money. So they kept saying they weren't getting paid, and the citizens were getting angry and they were getting stressed. And the whole time we just assumed we didn't have enough money. Like we just thought we didn't have enough money. And the way we thought it worked was the happiness of the citizens got you more money. But what it turns out was that screen where I thought I was looking at, like, oh, if you make them happier, you get more money, and your citizens cost more if they're, they don't have enough, or your military costs more if you don't have enough money. It was actually a slider. Like, I actually had to pay, like, I had to manually increase the pay of the military, which was just a little weird to me. Especially, I feel like something like that could have just been a pop-up to let me know, and it was a little confusing. And most of the time I would be like, oh, like, they just don't play games like this. But as somebody who plays a lot of games like this, it was very confusing to me. This is editing Kurt here, and I just wanted to make a little clarification. It was confusing to think, but one of the things that mostly confused us was the fact that, like, it started them at 0. Like, it gave them nothing from the start. So it was just weird that you would make the military that needs to get paid, but from, like, the initial just making it, it didn't automatically give it, like, the base level income. Like, the base income was just 0, and I thought that was a little weird. The world was also a little empty, and the combat was way too easy. There are small, like, bandit camps that show up on the map, but they're usually only like 2 or 3 on the map, and they take a decent amount of time to respawn. I believe it's about like a season or a day-night cycle, and each camp could be cleared in 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So once you cleared the camps out, it was nothing but trees and, like, mountains. There were a few, like, boar spawners and ore nodes and stuff like that, but that was really it. But again, this is something, as we go through early access, I'm sure those will be fixed as we go. I'm sure they'll add different points of interest, if you will, different animals and such in the world. Now, for my biggest con with the current state of the game, I don't know if I could recommend you buy it, simply because the game is so short. So short. I do understand it's early access, but to me, I felt like it was more of a demo for the early access before it comes out. I was able to unlock everything and essentially beat the game in roughly an hour. I unlocked all the research, I placed every building. It got to a point where we just had too many villagers and couldn't keep them employed because there weren't enough things in the game for them to do. So if you're looking for a game that's going to leave you satisfied and have longevity right now in this instant, I don't think this is the game for you. But if you're someone like me who doesn't mind supporting a developer and watching a game grow while you play the other 300 games you have in your Steam library, then I think it could fit in your wheelhouse. Wrapping all of this up, I do again want to reiterate that it is an early access game, and I did have a ton of fun with the stuff I was able to do. I think this is just really a backbone to a game, but the foundation is great, and I'm honestly excited to see where the developers are going to go and what they're going to bring to the table. There is a roadmap, and the research in the game that is locked gives you a rough release schedule, so I do have faith we'll get there. But it's a game I'm probably going to put down for about a year or so and come back to see what kind of content they added. From what I saw, the roadmap that they're planning on adding, they are going to add a lot of cool things like boats and pirates. They're going to add airships and player skill trees. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about the mechanics behind those things, like boats and pirates, so I'm assuming we're going to be able to expand into the ocean. I think there was also like an ocean life part in that roadmap. And if you're planning on adding airships, I have to assume you're going to make the map bigger because now we're flying through the air. So I think with those small categories, there's going to be more into that. And then the player skill trees would also be awesome because that might be able to include some diversity within the co-op realm of things. So maybe somebody could focus on like, oh, I get more fruit when I pick trees, or I get more resources. Like somebody could be more of like a farmer focus, somebody could be more of like an ore focus, somebody could be more of a builder, stuff like that. I think they could add a lot of diversity. But at the current state, it's really hard for me to tell everyone to pick this game up. But if you're excited about its future and you want to support the developers, it's definitely worth grabbing now, and it's definitely a fun time. But otherwise, waiting for more content might just be the smarter choice for you. But with that, that is going to wrap up my review for Overthrown, and I hope you guys found it informative. But let me know what you guys think. Are you going to pick it up? Are you going to wait for more content? And let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, the usual. If not, don't worry about it too much. I'm really just glad that you came to enjoy the content with me. But that's it for now, and until next time, later.